I want to take it to Modbox and paint it. So I'm going to do the UVs. I told you before that when we lay out the UVs that we can start with an automatic mapping. This consists of two pieces: the main body of the oil barrel and then the lid. I'm going to open the UV texture editor, and sometimes there might not even be any UV layout. There's no indication of any UVs. Some person might have deleted the UVs, or you might have deleted the UVs accidentally. So we'll start with new UV sets. So I'm gonna open these, split the windows here, and I'm gonna select the barrel and do an automatic map. So this one here, before I do that, let me show you something. This is, so that's 1 and that's 3. So basically I want the barrel to be painted in as a hard surface, not as a smooth surface. So if I want a smoother surface, it would be recommended that you actually convert it into a more smooth mesh, so then you don't have to have any, you're not going to get any stretching when you're painting. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave it to 1 and select it and do an automatic map, and I get this kind of organization. So I'm going to go back to my object mode. So something about Maya 2015 and Maya 2016. The UV texture editor has some improvements. Notice that there's this button here that shades the UVs. That's been here for a while. I mean, for older versions of Maya. This is a nice feature because let's say you have some UVs and they were like overlapping. The shade UV is a good feature because you can tell that, oh, actually there's a bunch of UVs overlapping here, you know. So then you know that, oh, something's wrong in this area. So that's like a good feature. The other one next to it, this one, shows indicates where do we have stretching occurring in the mesh. So this doesn't, if it's white, pure white, that means that there's no stretching. So when you take this barrel right now as it is to Modbox, there's going to be some stretching in certain areas, and you notice that some areas are getting pink. So if I select this UV and I move it closer, so that's like compressed, whereas when it's blue it's very stretched. So, but when it's white, like here, that means that it's in perfect condition, so there's no stretching or compressing. If I press the spacebar, we can also look at that on the model itself. So that's kind of, so now you can tell that in these areas are not that great. This one and some areas around here. So especially for video game people that you do a lot of props, this is like a very important feature. So how can I fix this? Let me do like a proper UV, since we haven't done any like yet. We've been doing a lot of like quick UV sets, layouts, and because Maya now has a very good has all these improvements, then we don't even need to go to our other program anymore. It's like everything is here. So I'm going to turn off this for a second, and then go and look at the object. And I would probably, the way I would handle it is I would make a cylindrical map. So I'm going to go ahead to the right view and select all these faces that but not the ones on the top. So let me just get these out of the way. Okay, so So I'm going to do a cylindrical map for this one. So I'm going to go ahead and do a cylindrical mapping. And do you guys know how that works? So once you do a cylindrical map, you just stretch it all the way, and you get your potentially that would be the correct way that this would lay out on the 2D plane here. So I'm going to go ahead and look at this for a second. Since we have this feature now, I can turn on this and actually I see that it's not at all laid out correctly. So what I'm going to do is just grab the UVs, all the UVs, and hold down the shift, right click, and use the smooth UV tool. That's another thing that works really well here. That will smooth the UVs, but then it actually it's stretching it and it's doing all this other stuff. So let me undo that and go and open the toolbox and use the UV space instead of the world. And that's not either. So what I'm going to do is before I go to that, I'm going to manually select the UVs here and compress them, like start scaling them until I find until I reach to like a close to white. So this is like as close as I can get for now. So I'm going to select the UVs again, go to the smooth UV tool, and I'm going to try to get them as straight as possible. And this is this is probably okay. So if I press R to scale them, and then so this is like the best, I mean, so far. I mean, I can always go back and work on it one more time. So I'm going to close everything. And of course I'm going to bring everything back here when I'm done. So let's go back to the object. Now since I don't see any distortion here, it's all white, I'm going to go back and I'm going to turn this off for a second, and I'm going to make a new material. I'm going to assign new material, a Maya material, a Lambert, and this one I'm going to call it UV check. And I'm going to assign the checker map on it, press 6 to see it here. And the squares are way too large, so I'm going to make them smaller by going to the texture itself here on the attribute editor and repeating the UV maybe like 20 or 30 times. Let's do 30. I do have the viewport 2.0 on right now, so I can see it very clear. So you can see, so that's an indication that there is no stretch at all. This one here, at some point, that's the seam. That's where it kind of connects, you know. So that it's unavoidable. We have to have a seam, and you can always make the seam wherever you want. So if I go back to my UV editor, select the object and turn on the. So I'm going to go ahead and do and work on the rest of these. So we're finished with the bottom, the body part. Then I'm going to go around all these other areas. Also, you can see that sometimes you can also select UVs. Like, let's say the ones that are obviously going to be stretching are those here because there's a curvature. So you could actually go and select all these UVs and still use the unfold for those, but you know, that's nothing is happening, so everything is clean. So always, you can always go to like in every shell, you can also go and select independent other regions and unfold them. So I'm gonna go up here now and look at the mesh. It looks really clean. I'm just gonna go back to my shaded mode, and I'm also gonna go back to that UV distortion check, and it's really not that bad. If I want to put together the top and the bottom, then I should do some more work. So I'm going to select the UVs here, command right click to shell and move them down. So as you can see on the mesh, these are the top parts, and let's get the other piece here. So I'm going to select these, command to shell, and get this guy over here. So if I select all these faces, notice that there are a lot of faces that are missing. So if I wanted to kind of connect the whole thing all together and flatten it out, I'm gonna go ahead first and see what's missing. So here I have there's a bunch of pieces that are missing. I'm gonna select the whole thing, shift right click, smooth, and I'm gonna unfold that. So that's kind of like reducing stretching, and I'm gonna do the same for this. Okay, so those are like clean. Now if you go and select the edges, these edges here, this is the interior edge, and you can see what corresponds to that. So you can see that these here correspond to that edge. These I have to bring them in. So I'm going to select the UVs. All of these, and bring them in here. Now how can I wrap them around? That's always like a little bit of a, it's difficult to, since this is circular, how could I wrap these around? So I'm going to go and select the edge. So this is out there, this is down there, so I'm just going to select the edges that they need to move. So I'm going to have to move these edges, this piece over to that piece. So I'm going to say move, and so the UV edges, but then you get this distortion issue. Again, you can go select the UVs, right click, shift, smooth, and you can unfold. So you can always go and unfold all that stuff. It's very easy. So let me pause the video right now just to